So I decided that after my last video on this subject, that the best place to start is perhaps the beginning. So I've decided to go back to the very first class of young global leaders and list all of the members from the class of 1993, just so we can really understand the foundations and the connections as we move through the years. So in the first class, there were 12 prime ministers, 3 presidents, a chancellor and a prince, plus many billionaires, bankers, investors, business people, and technocrats. And when the Young Global Leader program started, it was actually called the Global Leaders for Tomorrow program, and that ran under that name for about 10 years. And the age limit was 43 years of age or younger when entering, and that dropped later with the name change to 38 years or younger. So it appears that due to some of these participants that spanned that first 10 years, ending up being criminals and caught on very bad business dealings, bribery charges, and so on. One was even assassinated. That class decided to change the name to distance himself from certain participants. So keeping those who hadn't been outed, and most of the Global Leaders for Tomorrow became Young Global Leaders alumni when the name changed, and Klaus continued to build his network. So it appears for the most part that Klaus chooses those who are already seeking world domination and who are already a part of certain groups and families and come from notable backgrounds. But then there are a few who are just very useful for him. So they're in certain positions of power. And that helps further the World Economic Forum agenda. So I may say a name and you may think, what the heck, why is that person involved with those people? But generally, I find that it's just because they happen to be in a position of power that suited the agenda at the time. So I'm going to list by country order, but first I'll just start by listing the prime ministers and presidents that were in that first class of 1993. And I will touch on some, and then some I'll go in a little bit more depth with. There's about 200 altogether. Okay, so prime ministers and presidents that were in the class of 1993, young global leaders: Tony Blair, former prime minister of the UK from 97 to 2007, Gordon Brown, former prime minister of the UK from 2007 to 2010. Now, David Cameron was a young global leader in a later class, but I just thought I'd mention him. So UK Prime Minister 2010 to 2016. And although Theresa May is not a young global leader, she is a World Economic Forum agenda contributor and very, very involved with the World Economic Forum. And there is Jose Maria Aznar, former Prime Minister of Spain from 1996 to 2004. Esko Aho, former Prime Minister of Finland, 91 to 1995. Cyril Ramaphosa, who since 2018 is the President of South Africa. And Jose Manuel Barroso, and former Prime Minister of Portugal from 2002 to 2004. Nicolas Sarkozy, and President of France from 2007 until 2012. Juan Manuel Santos, so he was the President of Colombia from 2010 to 2018. And as you can see, he's also on the board of trustees for the Rockefeller Foundation. And Viktor Orban, current Prime Minister of Hungary since 2010, and was also the Prime Minister from 1998 to 2002. Philip Dimitrov, Prime Minister of Bulgaria from 91 to 1992. Adrian Natasi, he was the Prime Minister of Romania from 2000 to 2004. Angela Merkel served as the Chancellor of Germany from 2005 to just recently in December 2021. Guy Verhofstadt, Prime Minister of Belgium from 1999 to 2008. Einars Repsi, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he was the Prime Minister of Latvia from 2002 to 2004. Lee Hsien Loong. So he served as Prime Minister of Singapore and Secretary General of the People's Action Party since 2004. And Chang Day-wan. So he's the founder of the World Knowledge Forum, and that is the largest forum of its kind in Asia. It was founded in the year 2000, and he also served a brief stint as South Korea's acting prime minister in 2002 under President Kim Dae-jung. And if you look at the World Knowledge Forum, it is huge. It is very, very affiliated with the World Economic Forum. And what you'll find is a lot of the same people that are involved with the World Economic Forum. So there we go. They're in there. And then we also have Prince Mohammed bin Fahd Al Saud. So Saudi prince, politician and philanthropist who served as governor of the Eastern Province of Saudi Arabia from 1985 to 2013. And he's from the Saud dynasty, which I mentioned in my last video there on the young global leaders. So I was talking about the class of 2004 and 2015, and many of the Saud family members who have gone through the Young Global Leaders program. But in case you missed that video, the House of Saud is actually the royal ruling family of Saudi Arabia. So they have an estimated wealth of $1.4 trillion, and they also own the Saudi oil company Aramco. So here we have, just to start with, in the class of 93, 12 prime ministers, 3 presidents, a chancellor of Germany, a Saudi prince, all in the same class. And I'll go on now to list by country all the other participants of that year. Okay, so young global leaders from the class of 93 who are from the UK. We've got Richard Branson. He doesn't need much of an introduction. Everybody knows he's a British billionaire. Who founded the Virgin Group and controls more than 400 companies in various fields. And there is Stephen Wolfram. So he started a software company to sell Mathematica, a computer language that he'd written that did for higher math what the spreadsheet did for business. So he's a billionaire. He's an expert in artificial intelligence. He's very focused on digital technology and shaping our future in all aspects of our lives. Martin Taylor. So he's a businessman and former chief executive of Barclays Bank. He's an external member of the Bank of England's Financial Policy Committee. He is a businessman and former chief executive of England's Financial Policy Committee, and he's attended many meetings of the Bilderberg Group and served as Secretary General for several years. And he was an international advisor to Goldman Sachs until 2005. And there's Paul Stephen Walsh. So he's an English businessman who is the executive chairman of the McLaren Group. And he was a chief executive of Diageo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So that's the world's largest whiskey company. And he was a chief executive of that for 12 years between 2000 and 2013. And Michael Portillo. So most of us would know him because he's a British journalist and he's produced documentaries like The Great British Railway Journeys. However, he's a former politician and he was a member of the UK Parliament from 1984 to 1997 and then from 1999 to 2005. So he was a junior minister under both Margaret Thatcher and John Major, and in 92 served as the chief secretary to the Treasury and later promoted to the Secretary of State for Defence. And he also voted in favour of the 2003 invasion of Iraq. In September 2002, he became a non-executive director of the multinational defence contractor BAE Systems, and he resigned in 2006. Mick Davis, or Sir Michael Lawrence Davis, a British politician and former South African businessman, former chief executive and treasurer of the Conservative Party and the chief executive of Xstrata and his Anglo-Swiss multinational mining company. And he was with that until its merger with Glencore in 2013. And there is Archie Norman. So he's a British businessman and politician. He founded Policy Exchange and has been the head of 12 different companies. He is the only person to have been chairman of a FTSE 100 company, and he's a member of the House of Commons at the same time. So he was also a chairman of ITV PLC from 2010 to 2016. And then there's Robert Madge. So he's the chairman and CEO of Madge Networks. He founded it, and he's one of the industry's most influential figures, which drives network computing standards. And the company went public on NASDAQ in 1993. And he was also the president of ID Track, a European Association for Identification and Traceability of Goods based on technologies such as RFID. And he was also the founder of Olzet, a provider of services associated with implementation of RFID solutions in the food industry. And there's Kathleen O'Donovan. In 1991, she was named the first female finance director of BTR, once the British Tire and Rubber Company, and then one of the UK's top 100 public firms. She went on to work at Ernst & Young and currently works at Inverness. And Patrick Madams, so he worked for the Standard Chartered Bank as a senior economist in the 1970s, and he spent 11 years as the chief economist in ocean transport and trading, and he spent 7 years as a partnership secretary at Beechcroft LLP from 1997 to 2004, and in 2005 he started at the Honourable Society of the Inner Temple as a chief executive, and as of 2018, he is a board member there. Now, just slightly going off track for a second, from the Inner Temple, there are quite a few World Economic Forum agenda contributors. So I just thought I'd quickly name them. So there's Kay Firth Butterfield, Navin Chandra Ramgalam, and there's Martin O'Neill, Professor of Political Philosophy. Just getting back onto the Young Global Leaders again, there of 1993. So this guy, Martin O'Neill, he is a Professor of Political Philosophy at the Department of Philosophy at Harvard. And lastly, for the UK, we've got Howard Davies, and he is a British economist and author. He's the chairman of NatWest Group and the former director of the London School of Economics, which comes up a lot. Harvard and London School of Economics are pretty prevalent amongst these people. Out of the 200 of these 1993 participants, I would say well over 60% have come from Harvard. The Young Global Leaders from Italy for the class of 1993, there was Pietro Ferrero. He actually died a few years ago. He fell off a bike, apparently. Anyway, he was the founder of Ferrero, an Italian confectionery and chocolatier company. You'd probably know his company invented Nutella, a hazelnut cream spread, which sold all over the world, and also Ferrero Rochers and Tic Tacs and other Kinder chocolates. And the Ferreros are Italy's richest family, and they're 40th richest in the world. And another one from Italy that year was Corrado Passera. He's an Italian manager and banker who has held numerous executive level positions in various industrial and financial sectors, and served as Minister of Economic Development and Infrastructure and Transport. He began his career in 1980 at McKinsey. McKinsey also comes up a lot with these people as well. Moving on to the USA, Young Global Leaders 1993, we had Bill Gates, as most of you would probably know. He doesn't really need any introductions. And then there's Bono, also known as Paul David Houston. So he's the co-founder of the One Campaign, which was also fronted by Bob Geldof. And that's a NGO claiming to work on behalf of the extremely poor, but with a board largely composed of multi-millionaires, and the main funding provided by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, of course. And it sort of concentrates exclusively on political work, and the organization itself doesn't run any projects of emergency aid. And Yo-Yo Ma, seen there playing at the 2008 World Economic Forum's annual meeting. So he is a world famous cellist. He graduated from the Juilliard School and Harvard University. He was named Peace Ambassador by the then UN Secretary General Kofi Annan in January 2006, and he's a founding member of the influential Chinese American Committee of 100. In 2019, President Barack Obama appointed Ma to serve on the President Committee on the arts and humanities. And of course, to this day, he's still an agenda contributor at the World Economic Forum. Michael Dell. So he's an American billionaire businessman and philanthropist, and he's the founder, chairman, and CEO of Dell Technologies, one of the world's largest technology infrastructure companies. He is currently the 30th richest person in the world and still an agenda contributor there at the World Economic Forum, as most of them are. So Lawrence Katz, professor of economics at Harvard University. John Lawson Thornton, and he's an American businessman and professor and director of the Global Leadership Program at a university in Beijing. He's also executive chairman of Barrick Gold Corporation and a non-executive chairman of PineBridge Investments. He stepped down from being the co-president of Goldman Sachs in 2003, and he's also the son of John V. Thornton, who's the former vice chairman of the Consolidated Edison Company. And then there's George Richard, or known as Rick Wagner Jr., and he is an American businessman and former chair and chief executive officer of General Motors. So Mick Wagner resigned as chairman and CEO at General Motors in 2009 at the request of the White House. And the latter part of his time as CEO of General Motors found him under heavy criticism as the market valuation of GM went down by more than 90% and the company lost more than $82 billion. Very interesting. He's currently the director at ChargePoint, an electric vehicle infrastructure company. And in 2018, he made an investment into an app, a Silicon Valley startup, which is called Your Mechanic, and it connects owners with a group of certified mechanics in their local area. He's also on the board of Dean's Advisors of the Harvard Business School as well. And as you can see, he's sitting there with President George Bush, Dick Cheney, and some other so-called important people. And Lawrence Summers, so he's an American economist who served as the United States Secretary of the Treasury from 1999 to 2001, and as the director of the National Economic Council from 2009 to 2010. So he became a professor of economics at Harvard University in 1983, and he left Harvard in 1991, working as the chief economist of the World Bank from 91 to 93. And then in 93, he was appointed Under Secretary for International Affairs of the United States Department of the Treasury under President Bill Clinton's administration. He also served as president of Harvard University from 2001 to 2006, where he's currently a university professor and director of the Mossavar Rahmani Center for Business and Government at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. And of course, an agenda contributor. I should probably stop mentioning that because most of them are. And Ron Van Dal, so he's the founder and president at Longbow Innovations, and very wealthy man. And Preston Murdoch Guerin, I think that's how you pronounce it, Guerin III, known as Pete. He's an American attorney and politician who served as the 20th United States Secretary of the Army from 2007 to 2009, and he's a Democratic former member of the US House of Representatives from Texas's 12th Congressional District. And next along, we have, sorry about that. So Leonard Schleifer, he's a billionaire CEO and founder of a biotech company, Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. You should look into that one. That's very interesting. And his son is also up and coming at the moment. His name is Adam Schleifer. And then we have Joseph P. Kennedy II, an American businessman, Democratic politician, and a member of the Kennedy family. He is a son of former US Senator Robert F. Kennedy and Ethel Kennedy, and he's also the nephew of the former US President John F. Kennedy. Yes, he has the same parents as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They are brothers, yet appear to be playing a different role in life. Quite curious. I'll move on to the next person. So we have George Robert Stephanopoulos. He's an American television host, political commentator, and former Democratic advisor. Currently, he's a co-anchor on the Good Morning America show and host of This Week, which is ABC's Sunday morning current events news program. And Daryl Bernstein, so he's an entrepreneurial thought leader. He founded Global Video, a leading educational media distributor and producer. He's an author. He's now also the founder and CEO of Right Signature. So that's a software as a service company providing the easiest, fastest way to get documents signed. I'm sure that you guys have used that before with the new digital signature system. And there is Janice, I'm going to say this name wrong, Bukowski. So she's president, CEO, and founder of Freedom Technologies. And she has held several leadership positions in the US government and the private sector as well. She was appointed by President George H.W. Bush and confirmed by the Senate to serve as Assistant Secretary for Communications and Information at the Department of Commerce. She was also appointed to be a United States ambassador for the 2003 World Radio Communications Conference in Geneva, Switzerland. And she's also held several positions at the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, including senior advisor to the chairman. And next along, we have Lance Lundberg, the founder, president and CEO of Icon International Incorporated. So from 1985 to 2003, when it was sold to Omnicom for approximately $1.25 million. He's currently the chairman of BioWave Corporation, and he attended Harvard Business School and Yale. And we have Dennis Patrick. So he served as Associate Director of Presidential Personnel at the White House under President Ronald Reagan between 1981 and 1983, and was then nominated to the FCC Commission by President Reagan and went on to serve as the chairman of the FCC from 87 to 89, notably helping to finalize the repeal of the Fairness Doctrine. So from 1990 to 1995, Patrick served as CEO of Time Warner Telecommunications. After leaving Warner, he founded and served as CEO of Milliwave LP, a local exchange telephone company utilizing digital radio frequencies to transmit voice, video, and data. So between 1999 and 2001, he served as the first president of AOL Wireless and led efforts to expand the ISP's presence to cell phones and other wireless devices. And Jack Scoof, he's a millionaire and the founder of NetMedia and Artisoft. And Brian L. Roberts, he's an American billionaire businessman and the chairman and chief executive officer of Comcast, which was founded by his father, Ralph J. Roberts. He has 3 children. One of them is Tucker Roberts, which you may have heard of. Stephen D. Goldstein, he's an advisor, director, speaker, and author who works with CEOs and their leadership teams to drive change and improve performance. Meet Steve. And there's Gary M. Reiner. He's an American businessman and operating partner at General Atlantic. He has been with the global growth equity firm since 2010, where he provides strategic counsel and serves on the board of several portfolio companies. Prior to General Atlantic, he served as Senior VP and Chief Info Officer at General Electric and was also the director at Citigroup, and he graduated from Harvard Business School in 1980. Stanley O'Neill, so he's an American business executive who was formerly chairman and chief executive of Merrill Lynch, having served in numerous senior management positions at the company prior to this appointment. He was a member of the board of directors of General Motors from 2001 through 2006, and he currently serves on the board of Alcoa. And he was named the most powerful Black executive in America by Fortune magazine. And he also attended Harvard Business School. And Edgar Miles Bronfman Jr. So he's an American businessman who currently serves as a managing partner at Accretive, I think that's how you pronounce it, LLC, and it's a private equity firm focused on creating and investing in technology companies. And he previously served as CEO of Warner Music Group from 2004 to 2011, and as a chairman of Warner Music Group from 2011 to 2012. And he is a billionaire. His net worth is currently at $2.5 billion. So he was actually married to Sherry Brewer from 1979 to 1991. Now, she's an actress. She's known for movies like Shaft, Brave New World, the one from 1980, and Unsung Hollywood. And also his father is Edgar Bronfman Sr. So he's also the grandson of Samuel Bronfman, patriarch of one of the wealthiest and most influential Jewish families in Canada. And the Lehman family is a prominent family of Jewish German Americans who founded the financial firm Lehman Brothers. So some were involved in American politics. Members have married into the prominent Morgenthau, Loeb, and Bronfman families. And the families trace back to Abraham Lehman, and they gain their fortunes through the Seagram Company, an alcohol distilling company. And his mother was the daughter of John Langloth Loeb Sr., a Wall Street investment banker whose company was a predecessor of Shearson Lehman, which was American Express, and Francis Lehman, which was part of the Lehman Brothers banking firm. His daughter, Hannah Marcina Bronfman, she's actually currently an American DJ, social media influencer, and entrepreneur. And his son, Benjamin, is an American entrepreneur and musician, and a strategic advisor and principal investor with Algae Systems, a carbon capture project, and an associate managing director at Global Thermostat, a biofuel company. They're an interesting family to look into. There's so much more to say about them, but I'm trying to get through these as quick as possible. So these two here, so Leonard X. Bosack and Sandy Lerner. So Leonard and Sandy were the co-founders of Cisco Systems, an American-based multinational corporation that designs and sells consumer electronics, networking, and communications technology. So they were largely responsible for pioneering the widespread commercialization of the LAN, the local area network technology, to connect geographically, computers over a multi-protocol router system, which was really unheard of technology at the time. And they were married, and they're no longer married. And here we have Scott McNeely. So he's an American businessman. He's most famous for co-founding the computer technology company Sun Microsystems in 1982. And his father, Raymond William McNeely Jr., was vice chairman of the American Motors Corporation. Jill Berard, so she's an American businesswoman from New York City. She was the CEO of Mattel from 97 to 2000. And she's also the daughter of Hollywood director Larry Alican. I think that's how you say it. Josh Mailman. So he was one of the pioneers of the corporate responsibility movement and helped bring it in, or bring it from the fringe of the mainstream. So he helped start several influential foundations and business initiatives, from way back since the early 1980s, including the Threshold Foundation and the Social Venture Network. It's a non-profit membership organization composed of a multitude of various business leaders who strive to create a more just and sustainable world, is what they say. It was founded in 1987 by him and Thomas H. Stoner Jr. and Wayne Silby, which later led to Students for Social Responsibility, which is now known as Net Impact, and more recently, the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies. And in 1992, he co-founded Business for Social Responsibility. He also serves on the boards of Human Rights Watch, Witness, Sierra Madre Alliance, Afropop Worldwide, and the Environmental Defender Law Centre. And he's a founding shareholder in Stonyfield Farm and Seventh Generation. And here we have Professor James Cooper. So he is a professor and of law and director of international studies at California Western School of Law in San Diego. He's very, very involved with the World Economic Forum even to this day. And from One Equity Partners, there's Dick Cashin. So he's president, founder, and managing partner. And this is a private equity investment unit of JP Morgan Chase, which manages $6 billion of JP Morgan Chase's private equity capital and serves on the executive committee. And before joining One Equity Partners, he was the president of Citicorp Venture Capital from 1980 to the year 2000. Eileen Garzarelli. So she's one of Wall Street's most prominent and flamboyant stock market forecasters, and she worked for Lehman Brothers. So she was widely hailed for predicting Black Monday, the stock market crash of 1987. And she went on to make many predictions that were correct. research using like sophisticated computer equations relating to the performance of the stock market and various sectors to movements in interest rates, monetary statistics, earnings, and economic indicators. So on Wall Street, that's known as quantitative analysis. And George Van Amsen, so he's an investment banker. He got his degree at Harvard Business School. He worked for Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. And Gary Moreau, he is an executive consultant and faculty member for Leith Group, LLC, a dynamic research, curriculum development, and intellectual property greenhouse that grows leaders and shapes cultures. Zoe Bard, she is from Markle. So she's an American lawyer and president of the Markle Foundation, and she's known for her role in the Nanny Gate matter of 1993, which arose when she was nominated by President Bill Clinton as the first woman to be Attorney General of the US, but she withdrew her nomination when it was discovered she'd hired undocumented immigrants. And since 1998, she's been the president of the Markle Foundation, which is a multi-billion-dollar private foundation established in 1927 by industrialist and financier John Markle and his wife, Mary. The foundation is predominantly focused on technology, healthcare, and national security. She also serves on the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council, and that's quite interesting. So according to the World Economic Forum, the Global Future Councils are the world's foremost multi-stakeholder and interdisciplinary knowledge network dedicated to promoting innovative thinking to shape a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable future. It's an interesting initiative that they have, worth checking out. And almost getting to the end of the US participants of 1993 Young Global Leaders. So we've got Michelle J. Hooper. So she's a millionaire and the president and CEO of the Directors Council at United Airlines. And Wendy Kopp is the CEO and co-founder of Teach for All, a global network of independent nonprofit organizations working to expand educational opportunity in their own countries, and the founder of Teach for America. She attended Harvard and is heavily involved with the World Economic Forum still to this day, and also received the Schwab Foundation's Outstanding Social Entrepreneur Award in 2003. And Peter Sellers, professor of UCLA, or at UCLA, where he teaches art as social action and art as moral action. He is widely regarded as one of the key figures of theatre and opera of the last 50 years. So the last on the list of young global leaders for 1993 is John Huntsman Jr. So he's an American businessman, diplomat, and politician who served as the 16th governor of Utah from 2005 to 2009. He served as the ambassador of the US to Russia from 2017 to 2019, to China from 2009 to 2011, and to Singapore from 92 to 93, and was also the US Deputy Trade Representative from 2001 to 2003. So his daughter, Abby, is an American journalist and television personality who rose to prominence as a host of MSNBC and NBC News, and later went on to become a reporter for Fox News. His dad was John Huntsman Sr., an American businessman. He was the founder and executive chairman of Huntsman Corporation, a global manufacturer and marketer of chemicals. Now, David Kenneth Roy Thompson, 3rd Baron Thompson of Fleet, upon the death of his father in 2006, he became the chairman of Thompson Corporation and also inherited his father's British title, which is the Baron Thompson of Fleet. After the acquisition of Reuters in 2008, Thompson became the chairman of the merged entity, Thomson Reuters, or Reuters. As of June 2021, he was listed as the wealthiest person in Canada with an estimated net worth of $45.7 billion, but that has since gone up, as you can see, to $50.7 billion, and they are the 9th richest family in the whole world. So next is Bernard Valcourt. He's a Canadian politician and lawyer who served as a member of Parliament. He was first elected to the House of Commons in 1984, and he's held many positions up until 2015. And Paul Des Marais Jr. So he is a Canadian businessman in his hometown of Montreal. He's the eldest son of billionaire Paul Des Marais Sr. and Jacqueline. He's currently the CEO of Power Corporation of Canada. His son, also called Paul, so Paul III, has followed in his footsteps and is the vice president of Power Corporation of Canada. Now, his father, Paul Des Marais Sr., was a Canadian financier, and he was based in Montreal and had an estimated family net worth of $4.5 billion. And he was ranked by Forbes as the fourth wealthiest person in Canada. This was in 2013. And at the time, 235th in the world. He's a very well-connected person. I actually have a very interesting chart outlaying his connections that I can post here in the comments on Open Voice. Now, the other thing is, so many of this family, they're just billionaires. But aside from that, they've also, so many of them have received the Order of Canada. So interesting family to look into if you've got the time. You probably already know who they are if you're Canadian. Louise Blouin. So she's a Canadian magazine publisher. She's the owner of Louise Blouin Media, which she founded. She's one of the top names in the world publishing industry, currently lives in the UK, and is listed as one of the UK's richest women. Moving on to Switzerland for the class of 93 young global leaders, Patrick Nicolay, a strategic leader that works with organizations to understand the current and potential impact of technology, expert in digital transformation and innovation. Patrick Odier. So he comes from the Odier family, a very long line of bankers, and they're very rich and they go back very far. How private Swiss bank Lombard Odier has survived 6 generations. Okay, so Stephen D. Barber over here, he holds a senior role at Pictet and C, the Geneva private bank. Part of his mission was to turn around the company's struggling Japanese business, and eventually Pictet did become one of the top 3 foreign asset managers in Japan. And the Pictet Group is a Swiss multinational private bank and financial services company, which was founded in Switzerland, headquartered in Geneva. It's one of the largest Swiss banks and primarily offers services in wealth management, and asset servicing to private clients and institutions, and they're very connected to the World Economic Forum as well. And next we have Redo Denach. Now he's connected as well to the Pictet Group. He has a degree in economics, and that was from the University of Geneva. He currently works on the member management board for Credit Suisse Private Banking. And Adrian von Dornberg. So he's a business economist who currently works for the travel consulting group. But at the time he became a global leader for tomorrow, he was working for Kuhn and Nagel. And that's a global transport and logistics company, which was founded over 100 years ago in 1890. Headquartered in Switzerland, and they have 125 locations worldwide, connected to the World Economic Forum as well. And Adrian comes from the Barons of Dornberg, so that belongs to the Hessian nobility. They've belonged to the Althesian knighthood, which still exists today, and one of his recent ancestors is Alexander, pictured here with Hitler. He was a German lawyer, diplomat, and SS leader. Jorma Ollila from Finland is a Finnish businessman who was chairman of Royal Dutch Shell from 2006 to 2015, and at Nokia Corporation, he was the chairman from 99 to 2012 and the CEO from 92 to 2006, another one who attended the London School of Economics. Frank Detlef Wendy, he is a board member for TMK. Whoops. So he's from Russia. I should have said I was moving on to Russia. So currently the head of chair of logistics there at the financial university. previously the Chancellor of the President of JSC. He's held many positions. And next is Sergei Stankovic. And he is another interesting character. Definitely recommend reading up about him. And Anatoly Shubas, so Deputy Prime Minister of Russia from 92 to 96, Kremlin Chief of Staff from 96 to 97, and then once again, First Deputy Prime Minister of Russia from 97 to 98, and then became the chairman of the Executive Board of Rossano from 2008 until December 2020. Boris Nemtsov, or Nimtsov, I think it's pronounced. He was a Russian physicist and liberal politician. He was involved in the introduction of reforms into the Russian post-Soviet economy. In the 1990s, under President Boris Yeltsin, he was the first governor of the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast. So later he worked in the government of Russia as Minister of Fuel and Energy, Vice Premier of Russia, and Security Council member from 97 to 98. In 98, he founded the Young Russia movement, which is important to note. Alexander Shokin, so he's a well-known Russian statesman and politician, has a Doctor of Economic Science and is a professor, very involved in politics in Russia. And Boris Sobolev, so is a Russian-born Canadian health services researcher. He came to Canada to work at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario in 1996. He joined the University of BC as a professor at the School of Population and Public Health in 2008. He started his academic career at the Radiation Institute at the National Academy of Science of Ukraine, studying cancer risk in relation to exposure resulting from the Chernobyl accident. He's best known for pioneering the approach to studying risk of adverse events in relation to time of receiving medication. And lastly, for Russia is Mikhail Yuriev, and he was a Russian politician and studied molecular genetics. In 2018, he founded the American Ethane Company together with Alexander Voloshin, which is the former Kremlin Chief of Staff. So for Australia, there were two participants in that first year. There was Anna Booth, who is a Deputy President of the Fair Work Commission here in Australia. She's also a member of the Advisory Board for the Work and Organisation Studies discipline in the Business School of the University of Sydney. Now, she holds a Bachelor of Economics from the University of Sydney and Company Director's Course Diploma from the Australian Institute of Company Directors. And also from Australia is Paul Gilding, and he is an Australian environmentalist, consultant, and author. So a former executive director of Greenpeace International, and also a fellow at the University of Cambridge's Institute for Sustainability Leadership, and is the author of The Great Disruption: Why the Climate Crisis Will Bring on the End of Shopping and the Birth of a New World. On his website, he talks a lot about his time with Greenpeace and how he engaged with corporate leaders through private conversations and spent time with them in places like the World Economic Forum at Davos and other gatherings in Switzerland and so on. And for New Zealand, there was one that year. I'm going to try the best to pronounce his name, Waimatu K. Dews. He's a prominent business leader after graduating from Victoria University of Wellington with a bachelor's degree in arts and law. He joined the public service, rising to become the chief legal advisor in what was then the Department of Maori Affairs or Māori Affairs. In 1988, he was a guest scholar at the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C., looking at Maori economic development. And in the same year, he graduated with a Master of Public Administration from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. And for South Africa, Johan Rupert. So as he says here, this is not a pause, it's a reset. And coming from somebody who has a wealth of $9.6 billion, So he is the eldest son of the very wealthy Anton Rupert, who was the South African businessman who founded the Rembrandt Group, officially known as the Rembrandt Trust, which was a tobacco and industrial conglomerate, which eventually got split, becoming Remgro, which is an investment company with financial, mining, and industrial interest, and also Rochemont, which is a Swiss-based luxury goods group. So he's the chairman on both Richemont and Remgro. Now, the Rupert family was listed as 272nd on the list of the 500 wealthiest worldwide, with a net worth of 2.3 billion back in March 2005, and clearly that's grown immensely. And also recently they were ranked as the second richest in South Africa on the 2021 Forbes list, with a fortune reported at $7.1 billion, and today still holds a position, and their wealth has increased by 2.5 billion in just 1 year. So he has also said in 2018 that he believes in the idea of universal basic income, and he was, as you know, a young global leader in the class of 93, but his daughter more recently was in the class of 2014 for young global leaders, and she's quite involved with the World Economic Forum. So Robert M. Godsell, he's the chairman of Eskom Holdings in South Africa. And moving on to Norway, I am not sure about the pronunciation of this, but Ivan Reiten, he's a Norwegian economist, corporate officer, and politician for the Centre Party. He served as Minister of Fisheries from 1985 to 1986 and Minister of Petroleum and Energy from 89 to 90. He worked for Norsk Hydro from 1988. And those of you who watched my video on who is Klaus Schwab would know all about Norsk Hydro. So anyway, he worked there and later served as the Director General for Norsk Hydro between 2001 and 2009. And he was also a board member of the Bank of Norway from 91 to 94, and he attended several Bilderberg meetings. Thorleif Krupp, he is from Denmark and was the CEO from 1987 to 1991 at NIC Reddit, which is one of Denmark's leading financial groups in banking and mortgage credit and insurance, pensions and real estate. Spain, Pedro Ramirez. So he's a Spanish journalist. And also from Spain, Santiago Calatrava, and he was a Spanish architect. He's actually just infamous. So he's a structural engineer, sculptor, painter, particularly known for his bridges supported by single leaning pylons. So he's also his railway stations, stadiums, museums, whose forms often resembled living organisms. And he was named as one of the 100 most influential people by Time magazine in 2005. Morocco, there is Fouad Falali. So he actually married Princess Leila Meryem of Morocco, so CEO of Morocco's largest private company, owner group, and an investment banker and consultant to the Sears World Trade in New York. Not only that, but he's also the son of former Prime Minister of Morocco and Foreign Affairs Minister, which is the guy pictured here. And Kim Sung-yoon. So he is a group chairman of Hanwha, and he was ranked in 2015 the 47th richest on Korea's richest list. And for Singapore, Giorgio, so after leaving the Singapore Army, he attended Harvard Business School. He then entered politics and was the Minister for Information and Arts at the time, but would go on to serve as Minister for Health, Minister for Trade and Industry, and Minister for Foreign Affairs. Ho Kwon Ping is a Singaporean businessman and millionaire. He's an executive chairman of Banyan Tree Holdings, a Singapore-based leisure business group, which owns both listed and private companies engaged in the development, ownership, and operation of hotels, resorts, spas, residential homes, and retail galleries. He also studied at Stanford University. And then for Czech, Vladimir Duli, a Czech economist and politician, former deputy chairman of the ODA political party and Minister of Industry and Trade between 92 and 97 in the government of Václav Klaus. Between 89 and 92, he served as the Minister of Economy of the Czech and Slovak Federal Republic. There was actually one I accidentally left out from the US list just before. So this is Trip Hawkins from California. He's a millionaire who studied at Harvard and Stanford universities. He's the founder of Electronic Arts, amongst other companies, and he founded Electronic Arts, which is a video game company, when he was an Apple employee back in 1982. And in 2012, he joined the board of directors of Israeli technology company Extreme Reality, which is working on developing motion control software that can read a person's movement in 3D. And this is moving on to France. So Martine Aubry, she's a French politician who served as a minister in France in a variety of roles. And her father is Jacques Delors, who is also a French politician. He served as the 8th president of the European Commission from 1985 to 1995 and the Minister of Finance of France from 1981 to 1984. We have Beatrice Mari. She was a French politician and a member of the Socialist Party from 1977 to 2012. Philippe Kahn. So born in France, he's an engineer, entrepreneur, and founder of 4 technology companies: Borland, Starfish Software, Lightsurf Technologies, and Full Power Technologies. So he's credited with creating the first camera phone, being a pioneer for wearable technology, intellectual property, and is the author of dozens of technology patents covering the Internet of Things, IoT, artificial intelligence modeling, and wearable eyewear, smartphone, mobile imaging, wireless, synchronization, and medical technologies. Jean-Marie Messier is a French businessman who was the chairman and chief executive of the multinational media conglomerate Vivendi. And he held several posts at the French Economy Ministry, including a post as technical Chancellor for privatization. And during the 1980s, before moving to investment bank Lazard Freres in 1989, he established the boutique bank Messier Partners. And after taking up the chairmanship of the utility company over there in France in 1994, he oversaw its diversification into the media sector and its 2000 merger with Canal and Seagram, owners of the Universal Studios, to form Vivendi Universal. And next is Vincent Bollard. He's a French billionaire businessman. He's the chairman and CEO of the investment group Bollard. And as of September 2021, his net worth is estimated at US $9 billion. He's ranked the 499th richest person in the world, and that's according to Bloomberg, with an estimated fortune of $5.27 billion. He is a close friend to former French President Nicolas Sarkozy. I guess maybe they met in the class or knew each other prior to that. It has been said that their friendship goes back over 20 years. So his son, Yannick Bollard, he is also a young global leader. He was in the class of 2008. I don't think I have a picture of him. Oh, no, that's him there. Sorry. And that is his cousin, Thierry Bollard, who's a French businessman, currently the CEO of Jaguar Land Rover, whose family-owned investment firm Bollard has big interest in electric car and charging networks, including providing those for the UK capital. He's also affiliated with the World Economic Forum as well. And so this is Vincent Bollard, and that is his dad. Sorry, that is him. Sorry, I've been talking for a long time now. So anyway, Bola has been investing massively in the media for several years. So he's the main shareholder of the Vivendi Media Group, which holds 18% of Universal Music Group, in addition to numerous TV stations and newspapers. And just recently, in 2022, he has also bought the largest private radio station in France, Europe 1, in time for the 2022 French presidential election. Okay, so Anne Lauvergeon is a French businesswoman who served as CEO of Arriva from 2001 until 2011. And according to the Wall Street Journal, she is known internationally as one of the most prominent defenders of nuclear power. She has attended several Bilderberg meetings, and she's on many corporate boards such as Koch Holding, member of the board of directors since 2016, and American Express since 2017. And Antoine Acquire, he attended the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and Harvard Business School in the 70s. He's an economic contributor to the World Trade Organization and has contributed to research and papers on agendas such as the competition policy and the global trading system. And Jean-Marc Fournier was a French businessman. In 1996, he was appointed president of Credit Suisse and had been a director of ICE since 2002. And you may have heard about ICE, which is the Intercontinental Exchange Incorporated. 6 months after his death in December 2020, a criminal court concludes that he had used numerous offshore bank accounts to hide and launder 6.6 million euros of tax fraud since 2005. And this is Christian Lacroix, a French fashion designer. And for Germany, we have Peter Hinz, German politician of the Christian Democratic Union, who served as a member of the German Bundestag from 1990 until his death in 2016. From 2013 until 16, he was one of the 6 vice presidents of the Bundestag, briefly served as Parliamentary State Secretary of the Federal Minister of Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth under Minister Angela Merkel in the 4th Cabinet, and then in the 1st and 2nd Cabinets of Chancellor Angela Merkel between 2007 and 2013. He was also the government's coordinator of aerospace policy. Wolfgang Kubicki is a German politician of the Free Democratic Party of Germany, the FDP, and member of the Bundestag from 1990 until 92 and 2017 onwards. He has been vice chairman of the FDP in Germany since 2013, and since 2017 he served as president of the Bundestag from 92 to 93, and from 96 to 2017 he served as the chairman of the FDP group in the Schleswig-Holstein State Parliament. Sorry about my pronunciation, guys. There's too many things to try to remember how to pronounce. So Claudia Nolte is a German politician of the Christian Democratic Union, CDU, who became the youngest cabinet minister in German history, whilst in office from 94 to 98, and was Federal Minister for Family, Seniors, Women and Youth Affairs, and by virtue of the office presided over the European Union Council of Ministers. So this is Sabine Luthisa. Here I go again. Schnarrenberger. So she's a German politician of the Liberal Free Democratic Party. She served as Federal Minister of Justice of Germany from 92 to 96, and in the cabinet of Helmut Kohl, and again in the second Merkel cabinet from 2009 to 2013. Franz Joseph Kortum is a German businessman. He's currently the chairman of the advisory board at Bose. Bose is the world's 4th largest family-owned automatic supplier. Dr. Reinhard Goner was a member of the Federal Assembly of Germany, a lobbyist, a former politician for the CDU. From 91 to 93, he was Parliamentary State Secretary at the Federal Ministry of Justice from 93 to 94 at the Federal Ministry of Economics. And this is Dr. Klaus Eickhoff, so former board member of Bertelsmann AG, which is a German private multinational conglomerate corporation based in the North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany. It is one of the world's largest media conglomerates and is also active in the service sector and education. So it was founded as a publishing house by Karl Bertelsmann in 1835. And this is Klaus Regling. So he's a German economist and current Chief Executive Officer of the European Financial Stability Facility, the EFSF, and Managing Director of the European Stability Mechanism, son of a politician. From 1975 to 1980, he worked at the IMF in Washington, D.C., and in 1999, he entered the private sector as the Managing Director of the More Capital Strategy Group in London, where his colleagues included David Lipton and Philip Hildebrand, who is a Swiss banker and has been the Vice Chairman of BlackRock since 2012, and Professor Dr. Ernst Moritz Lipp, German economist, and he is a co-head there. He was a member of the management board of the Dresdner Bank, as well as being a member of its investment banking management board, where he was responsible for the global corporate finance business. Before taking up his management board role, he was chief economist at Dresdner Bank, as well as responsible for the international lending business in London, Luxembourg, and Frankfurt. And he started his career as General Secretary of the German Council of Economic Experts. And lastly, for Germany is Annette Winkler. So she's a German business executive who was the CEO and director of Smart Automobile, the division of Daimler AG, for 23 years, and went on to serve as member of the advisory board in 2019 for Mercedes-Benz, and is a member of the Council for Foreign Economic Affairs of the German Ministry for Economics. So for Sweden, we've got Jacob Wallenberg. He's a Swedish banker. He serves as a board member for multiple companies. The Wallenberg family are a prominent Swedish family and Europe's most powerful business family. And they are noted as bankers, industrialists, politicians, bureaucrats, and diplomats. And they employ about 600,000 people. And their business empire includes pharmaceuticals, Ericsson, Saab, and NASDAQ. And the Wallenberg family have a wealth of over $200 billion. And Jacob was a member of the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, and he's also a member of the Trilateral Commission. And they also own Investor, which is a World Economic Forum organization. And Mona Sahlin is a Swedish politician and also the daughter of Hans Andersson, who was an advisor to former Prime Minister Ingvar Carlsson. Fredrik Lundberg. So he's a Swedish businessman and economist, and his father was Lars Erik Lundberg. He's the 9th wealthiest person in Sweden and number 529 on the richest people in the world list, according to Forbes magazine in 2019. And he currently has a net worth of $6.6 billion and also owns Skanska, which is also a World Economic Forum organization. And Per Westerberg was a Swedish politician, and he was Sweden's Minister for Industry and Trade from 91 to 94. And Leif Johansson is a Swedish businessman. He was president and CEO of the Volvo Group from 97 to 2011 and chairman of Ericsson from 2011 until 2017. And he's currently the chairman of a particular pharmaceutical company. And in 2012, the Focus magazine ranked him as Sweden's 6th most powerful person. Arne Martinsson, after graduating from the Stockholm School of Economics, he was employed at Handelsbanken, one of the big banks in Sweden, and he was only 38 years old, and he was appointed managing director and CEO. He stayed with them for more than 30 years, 15 as managing director, chairman of the board, and during this time, he was also on the board of 6 of Sweden's largest companies. So for Poland, there was just one student in the program that year, and that was Jan Rakita, and he was a Polish liberal politician. And Hong Kong billionaire brothers, Thomas and Raymond Kwok, were both in the class of 93. And at one stage, the Kwok family were the 3rd richest family in all of Asia. But both of the brothers were arrested on bribery charges in 2012, and Thomas was sentenced to 5 years in jail and a $500,000 fine. Another set of billionaire brothers were sons of Hong Kong's richest man, Li Ka-shing, who is the 30th richest person in the world and 12th richest in Asia. And there was Victor Li, one of his sons, in the Young Global Leaders class of 93, and the other one as well, Richard Li. They're both billionaires and chairmen of the board of CK Hutchinson's Holding, and that's Victor, and Richard is also the founder and chairman of the private investment group Pacific Century Group. And Henry Tang is a Hong Kong politician who served as the Chief Secretary of Hong Kong between 2007 and 2011, and he held the position of Financial Secretary from 2003 to 2007. Richard Chien, can't get a photo on him, but he is a Hong Kong businessman and former politician. He's the director of Wharf Limited and HSBC, former non-executive chairman of MTR Corporation Limited until 2015, and chairman of CDC Corporation. He was a director of HSBC Holdings until 2007, when he became chairman of Hang Seng Bank. Alan Wong. So he's a billionaire who started VTech in 1976, an electronics company that has approximately 30,000 employees, and he's the deputy chairman and independent non-executive director of the Bank of East Asia. Anthony Leung is a businessman who served as financial secretary of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region from 2001 until his resignation in 2003 due to controversy over a conflict of interest. So he's currently the chairman of Nan Fung Group and chairman and co-founder of the New Frontier Group. Rosanna Wong, so she's a senior advisor of the Hong Kong Federation of Youth Groups. She's a member of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, non-executive director of CK Hutchinson Holdings Limited, and also she currently serves as a global advisor to Mars Incorporated, and she's also a board of governor to the Our Hong Kong Foundation. And we have Peter Akos-Bod. So he's a Hungarian politician and economist. And at the time, he was the governor of the Hungarian National Bank, and he's been the Minister of Industry and Trade. That was between 90 and 91. And also for Hungary, there was this guy, which was Georgi Saranyi, a Hungarian economist, and the CEO and chairman of CIB Bank and former president of the Hungarian National Bank. And also Jack City Georgi, also another Hungarian economist. Okay, so moving on to Japan, we've got Masayoshi Son. He's a Korean Japanese billionaire, technology entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist. And as of October 2021, he's the second richest person in Japan and the 64th richest person in the world. He is the founder, chairman, and CEO of the Japanese holding company SoftBank, and also of the SoftBank Mobile, and chairman of UK-based holdings. And he was named the world's 45th most powerful person by Forbes magazine list of the world's most powerful people. And next we have Yasuo Tanabe, and senior vice president and senior corporate officer of Hitachi. And Kuniko Inoguchi is a Japanese political scientist and politician. She served as Japan's first Minister of State for Gender Equality and Social Affairs from 05 to 06, and is currently a member of the House of Chancellors, and she studied at Yale. And Yuriko Koike is a Japanese politician who currently serves as the governor of Tokyo. She was a member of the House of Representatives of Japan from 1993 until 2016 and is known as the most powerful woman in Japan. And Kazunori Fujita, I don't have a photo, president of Fujita, a huge company over there. And Guatemala, Rigoberta Menchú. She is a human rights activist, feminist, and Nobel Peace Prize laureate. She's dedicated her life to publicizing the rights of Guatemala's Indigenous peoples during and after the Civil War between 1960 and 1996, and to promoting Indigenous rights internationally. She received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1992 and the Prince of Asturias Award in 1998, in addition to other prestigious awards. She's a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador. She ran for president of Guatemala in 2007 and 2011, and she also founded the country's first Indigenous political party. So next we have Venezuela. So Eugenio A. Mendoza, he was a Venezuelan corporate executive, and also we have, that's disappeared from there. But we had Adolfo Haddad. He's the founder of Latamix and founder of La Ceiba Finance, an investment banking firm in Venezuela. And Carlos Alberto Bologna Bear for Peru. So he was an economist and politician. He served as the Minister of Economy and Finance from 91 to 93, and again from July to November 2000 under the administration of President Alberto Fujimori. He was a consultant for the World Bank and the US Agency for International Development, the USAID. He was Director of Foreign Trade Affairs of the National Integration Office between 1975 and 1978. And then Lourdes Flores is a Peruvian lawyer and politician. Moving on to Chile for the class of 93, we had Edmund Hermosilla. He was the Minister of Housing and Urbanism of Chile at the time, and also the General Manager of Banco BHIF, which in 2008 merged with the Canadian Scotiabank. And next, we have Rene Cortázar, and he's a Chilean economist and politician of the Christian Democratic Party. And for Argentina, we have Gustavo Beliz, and former Prime Minister of Justice and Human Rights of Argentina, an expert in global governance, and currently the Secretary of Strategic Affairs of the presidency. He's a cabinet minister and is responsible for designing and implementing the foreign relations strategy for the office of the president. Ricardo Lopez Murphy. So he's an Argentinian economist. He worked as a consultant and economic advisor for many companies over the years throughout Latin America. He was a consultant to the Inter-American Development Bank, World Bank, IMF, chief economist to the Latin American Economic Research Foundation. And in 1999, he entered politics when he was appointed Minister of Defense as a member of the Radical Civic Union and the UCR. He remained in this position until 2001, when he briefly took the position of Minister of Economy in the government of Argentina. And he has recently assumed office as National Deputy in the lower house of the National Congress. Also for Argentina is Daniel Marx. So he's a former Secretary of Finance of Argentina, and he's currently Executive Director of Quantic Finanzas, a financial services firm in Argentina and the region, which is a part of a global network led by Evercore Partners and G5 Advisors. So for Mexico, Pedro Aspe Amela, or Amea, and he's a Secretary of Finance and Public Credit of Mexico from 98 to 94, and has held, and the former Minister of Finance, has held many positions. And Jacques Rogozinski, so Mexican economist during the administration of President Carlos Salinas de Gortari between 88 and 94. He played a key role in the process of privatization of public companies as head of the Office of Disincorporation of the Finance and Public Credit, which was responsible for coordinating the disincorporation of airlines, ports, mines, and the sales of Mexican telephony. And Jamie Serra, so he's a Mexican economist. He's a chairman of SAI Consulting and principal of the NAFTA Fund. And for Brazil, there's Richard Semler. So he's the CEO and majority owner of Semco Partners. He talks a lot about sustainability. And Cesar Souza, so he was a senior VP at a company called Odebrecht, and it was involved in the largest foreign bribery case in history. They had to agree to pay $3.5 billion in global penalties, and now he works for Infrared Capital Partners. And that was just a copy here of them having to pay that huge penalty. And Benjamin Steinbrück, so he was a billionaire in the steel industry. And Plinio Massetti, a banker, business person, worked for JP Morgan, chairman of 3 companies and on the board of directors at Adecco Agro, and is in charge of corporate governance. Next is Youssef Boutros Ghali for Egypt. So Egyptian economist, he served on the government as a minister of finance, many different positions over the years. His uncle Boutros Ghali is actually the 6th Secretary General of the UN. He held that position between 92 and 96. He was also an Egyptian politician. Okay, so for India, we've got Atul Kelaskar. So he's actually on the board of directors for his family company there, an oil engine company, and Niraj Bajaj, and he's from the Bajaj Group. It's an Indian multinational conglomerate company founded by Jamnalal Bajaj in Mumbai in 1926. And Niraj is the younger cousin to Indian billionaire businessman Rahul Bajaj, who's also a part of the World Economic Forum. And he is also Rahul's son, who I just showed you. Rajiv was also a global leader for tomorrow in 1999. He's an industrialist and also involved with the Women's Economic Forum as well. And the Bajaj Group is also a partner to the World Economic Forum also. And then there is Maitreya V. Doshi, who at the time was the vice chairman of the board at Premier Limited, formerly known as Premier Automobiles Limited, and since 2008 has been chairman and managing director there. He studied in Switzerland and then Stanford University in the USA. And Sanjeev Goenka, he's an Indian entrepreneur and billionaire. He's the founder and chairman of the RPSG Group and an early stage investor with a US 6 billion asset base and US 4.3 billion revenue. This multinational conglomerate is headquartered in Kolkata. And his father was Rama Prasad Goenka. This family belongs to the Mawari community of moneylenders and tradesmen and hailed originally from Rajasthan in Western India. And Chandra or C.K. Birla is an Indian industrialist and philanthropist, and he's the chairman of the C.K. Birla Group, a conglomerate operating across home and building products, automotive and technology, and healthcare and education. And the Shaheen Group in Bahrain, the CEO, Sagar Shaheen, was one of the young global leaders there of 1993. And in Mongolia, this name is really hard to say, but this guy, I'll just show you so you can see what his name is over here, Naidan Surajin Zolshagel. Well, he's one of the founders of the Mongolian Stock Exchange and was educated in Hungary and later studied finance at Harvard University in the United States and founded that stock exchange when he was only 27 years old. And he also claims to be a direct descendant of 13th century Mongol warlord Genghis Khan. And for Turkey, there is Sefi Kamhi. So he's a Jewish Turkish businessman and politician. He's a member of the executive board of Profilo Holding. He's the son of businessman Jack Kamhi, chairman and founder of Profilo Holding. And then there is Mustafa Verbikok, and he was a Turkish businessman and a third-generation member of the Koch family. He's best known as the chairman of Koch Holding, a position he held from 2003 until his death in 2016. This family is a Turkish family of business people founded by Verbikok, one of the wealthiest self-made people in Turkey, and is also a member of the Bilderberg Steering Committee. And Leyla Allerton, so she's a Turkish businesswoman and daughter of millionaire Ishak Allerton, and he's one of the founders of Alako Holding, one of the largest business conglomerates in Turkey. And Leyla's also a board member on the company board as well. And there's Sharif Koskan Ulusoy. He served as the former general manager of Ziraat Bank and Halk Bank. And also Dr. M. Erkan. He is a Turkish economist, surname Kumchu. And for Indonesia, James Riyadi. He's an Indonesian businessman and the deputy chairman of the Lippo Group, a major Indonesian conglomerate, and one of the most prominent Chinese Indonesian businessmen. He's the son of Mokhtar Riyadi, who founded Lippo Group, and he was an Indonesian financial magnate. So James's son, John Riyadi, was also a young global leader for the class of 2018. He's on the screen at the moment, and he's also a World Economic Forum agenda contributor. So the Riyadi family are billionaires and one of the richest families in Indonesia. There's been a lot of scandals involving this family. It's an interesting one to investigate. And then there's Professor Sianto Gondokusumo. He's a technocrat. He was the owner of Bank Damala. The bank belongs to the Damala Group, belonging to the Damala family, which is one of the conglomerate families in Indonesia. And this family was one of the richest in Indonesia at the time. He was a consultant of the World Bank in both 94 and 96 and the Asia Development Bank from 97 to 98. He worked for the Indonesian Ministry of Education and Culture, both from 2005 to 2013. And then since 2014, he's been the chairman at the Yogi Akata State University. And then from Malaysia, Vincent Tan Chi Yon. He's a Malaysian Chinese businessman, billionaire and investor. He's the founder of Berjaya Corporation Berhad, a diversified conglomerate listed on the Malaysian Stock Exchange. Besides holding stakes through the Berjaya Corporation group of companies, he also has other stakes, including interest in internet-related businesses, water utilities, media, retail, and telecommunication. And then there's another Malaysian guy, which I can't find a picture for. His name's Lim Thien Kiat, and at the time was a Malaysian tycoon and millionaire. He's also the son of Dato Lim Ah Tam. He's the former head of Multipurpose Holdings, one of Malaysia's biggest conglomerates. He resigned in 99 after big losses at the group and still retains a stake in some of its public entities. And then there's Ali Adnan Ibrahim, and he's a chairman and managing director of the International Investor Kuwait, a regional investment bank, a position he's held since 92. So he's from Kuwait. And then for Nigeria, there was one from there in the Young Global Leaders. So he's Nigerian. Ben Okri is a Nigerian poet and novelist, and he's considered one of the foremost African authors in the postmodern and post-colonial traditions. And he's been compared to authors like Salman Rushdie and Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And he won the Booker Prize with his novel, The Famished Road. And last of all, of these 200 or so participants of the class of 93 was Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, and he's a Dubai businessman. He's the chairman and chief executive officer of DP World and the chairman of Ports, Customs and Free Zone Corporation. He's currently involved in Seven Tides International, a diversified real estate investment and development company in Dubai. He's listed as one of the most powerful Arabs in the world. So that concludes the class of 1993. It's been very long, and you can go and look up these people and verify it all for yourself. Thanks for watching.